of your life, a lot of your hours, a lot of your waking hours working on whatever this is. So make sure that it is something that is exciting to you, that you care about, that you feel like you can, if you want to learn, that you can learn from, and something that you're going to actually enjoy. And don't expect or focus on a particular type of trajectory or career line or path. When you find great talent, and especially once they have institutional knowledge and they understand the business and they have relationships and are trusted and know people, like, you want to keep them.
Hi all, good morning. So today I have Marta with us, who is an accomplished problem solver and business strategist with experience in operations, project, and program management. She's responsible for hiring and training operations staff across multiple levels, and she is very passionate about helping people find the right job. Let's welcome Marta on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom, where she will tell us about what she's learned along the way, how we can learn from her learnings, and if she has any tips for job seekers out there. Hi Marta, how are you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good, Marta. So Marta, let's get started. Can you maybe give us an example of a particularly challenging performance or personal issue that you had to address when you were working at SeatGeek specifically?
Sure. I would say I've had a couple of folks on my team who just fantastic people, not in the right role, or not necessarily excited about where the role was going and excited about maybe where the role had been. And so it's always tough, because when you have great people on your team, and you want them to thrive, and you want them to be happy, and you want them to be challenged, and you want them to grow, and ideally you want them all to do that while, if not on your team, staying within the company. Sometimes that can happen, and sometimes not. Do you want me to go into more detail?
I would love to go in more detail if you're comfortable. Otherwise, we could always move on to the next question, whatever works better for you.
Yeah, I can share a little more. I think, so my approach would always be, I think if possible, and I feel very strongly at all of my companies, I've always said this, like, when you find great talent, and especially once they have institutional knowledge and they understand the business and they have relationships and are trusted and know people, like, you want to keep them, however you can keep them. And so I think, especially as a manager, and as a leader, you want to encourage folks to grow, to learn, to build their career. And so I think making sure that you are talking to other leaders or other team leads across the business, and understanding where opportunities might be and them find them, and letting them, I think I've had a number of opportunities where folks have maybe not stayed on my team, but been able to stay in the business and contribute somewhere else and grow their own career, while also continuing to, the business gets to benefit from all of the knowledge and experience that they have there. I think that to me is like a great win.
I think I love that. I think, just to follow up on that, Marla, a lot of people usually, before they admit that they might not be liking where their role is headed into, they might not be liking the job, the responsibilities. They sometimes might just consider leaving the company and looking for another role. But a right leader could identify that, okay, this person is struggling. They have the right institutional knowledge. So how do we put them in another position? But some leaders might not be able to recognize that. So what are some of the tips that you might have for people who have some people struggling on their team, but how would they identify that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think probably the first key, and the first thing that comes to mind, is like building strong relationships with your team members, and as direct reports with your manager. I think having that trust, being able to just communicate openly about things people like doing, people don't like doing, where they're struggling, where they're feeling challenged, where they're feeling excited. I think if you truly have like a strong and open, trusting relationship, you'd probably fairly rarely, maybe sometimes, I won't say never, but like fairly rarely be surprised by someone deciding to look up elsewhere. That doesn't mean that they couldn't get outreach from somewhere else, get some, an inbound, and explore it for whatever reason, and it ends up kind of driving them away. But I think for the most part, if you are, make sure that your one-on-ones, if you're having one-on-ones, and I encourage you to have one-on-ones, you're not just talking super tactical. It's not just always about like this project and what's our progress and where are we falling behind and where are we, where are things going well, but also how are you doing? What are you liking about your work these days? What are you not liking about your work these days? Like, are there, other projects that you're out or seeing that you would like to find ways to get involved in? Are there other skills that you're looking to develop that you haven't had the opportunity to yet? I think keeping all of those lines of communication open is key.
And I think that's very important because at the end of the day, we sometimes forget that we're actually working with humans, and these conversations can give us so much insight into how they're feeling, how they're doing, and often if we just call out on those things, it can optimize efficiency, productivity, because those people can feel seen, and you might never know, you might actually post them in a position where they're more likely to succeed. So thank you so much for sharing that, Marta. Marta, my next question for you is, you're very passionate about the company that you work with. Would love to understand about what your company does from your own perspective.
Sure. Yes, I've only ever worked for companies that I'm very passionate about. It's been a hallmark of my career and something I'm proud of and is important to me. I love what SeatGeek does. I think, I believe in the power of live experiences. I believe in the power of connection. And I think that, the SeatGeek was founded based on the idea that this is an industry that is ripe for change, that has not historically been focused first and foremost on the fans and on the experience that people are having when they choose to buy a ticket and go to a concert or go to a sporting event or go to the theater or whatever it may be. I'm wanting to change that and wanting to make it the best possible experience for the fan, because it is something that is, can change your life, or can, maybe it changes your life, maybe it changes your day, maybe it just is, a wonderful life memory that you will have. And I think that really shines in all that we do. I think that you really feel that passion from everybody you'd work with here, both in terms of everyone who will come to work at SeatGeek is a fan, whether they're, a sports fanatic or a avid theater goer or a concert junkie, whatever it is, super passionate about the experience of live events, the experience of being a fan. And we try to put that at the forefront of everything that we build and develop, and even how we work with partners, whether it's, client partners, rights holders, brokers, whoever it may be, making sure that that's always first, top of mind. And I love that.
That sounds amazing. I'm pretty sure people who are big into concerts, live events would really love this. So thank you so much for sharing that, Marta. Marta, my last and final question would be centered around your career. You worked with a lot of companies, especially companies that you were very passionate for. What are some of the things that you learned along the way that might have been very hard to understand if someone was telling you that, but when you actually went through it, you were like, oh, that makes sense. So what were some of the things that you had to learn during choosing jobs that you were more passionate about, especially because there's so many companies laying off these days? So just from your experiences, from your hardships, from the obstacles that you conquered, can you share some advice for people out there?
Sure. And you mean about companies, like things that would have surprised me about the companies, or?
Companies, or your just experiences in general, whatever you think would be the best for people who are currently in the market looking for new jobs.
I think I would say two things come to mind. One, trust your gut. I think regardless of what the role might say on paper, or what the company might look like on paper, if you are going through an interview process, you are meeting a lot of people, you are having real conversations, it should be two ways, right? An interview process is not just them interviewing you, you are interviewing them too. And I would say trust your gut. Like, some things are going to feel right and good, and some things are going to not. And if they don't, it's easy to say theoretically, it doesn't matter what money they offer you. I realize that in real life it matters, right? But to the extent that you can trust that, and not be too swayed by the shiny objects, the name brand, or the salary package, or whatever it may be, I think you'll find that you're probably often right about what could be a fit for you or not. I think the other key piece, and this is a piece of advice that I was given, was like, don't expect or focus on a particular type of trajectory, or career line or path, which I particularly liked, because I've never had a very clear. I mean, I do now have a much clearer vision of where I would like to be going and what I think that looks like. But I think it's kind of similar to trusting your gut, is like, take the opportunities that seem exciting and interesting, because again, like, this is you're going to be spending a lot of your life, a lot of your hours, a lot of your waking hours working on whatever this is. So make sure that it is something that is exciting to you, that you care about, that you feel like you can, if you want to learn, that you can learn from, and something that you're going to actually enjoy. And if it, see where it takes you, because maybe it's not going to be the exact path or the exact next role that you thought, or the exact title that you were looking for. But I think careers can kind of go in all sorts of ways and shapes and places. And to the extent that you can, and this is easier for me said than done, but to the extent that you can just kind of allow yourself to go on that journey and enjoy it, I think from what I've seen and experienced, folks are a lot happier and ultimately a lot more successful that way.
I think it's so interesting that you mentioned that specifically because I think we're all busy planning life, but sometimes, I mean, who knew the pandemic was going to happen? Who knew the world was going to be turned upside down? So I
Right.
think planning, but then having the flexibility for life to happen is very important, and just having the right balance allows a person to prepare, but also make sure that he leaves room for whatever happens his way. So thank you
Yes.
so much for sharing that, Marta. I think your journey, specifically how you work with companies that you're passionate about, the way you look at companies, especially during the obstacles and the challenges that you shared, are very important and very inspiring for people who might be struggling right now in the job market. Thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing your experiences, Marta.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.